either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast, where the long wait for the next and final Disney princess in the classic age of Disney may not have been 100 years in the making, but for some, it felt like it was way too long for what it was. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
And hopefully this episode doesn't put you to sleep for 100 years either.
I hope not.
If you haven't guessed it, we're doing 1959's Sleeping Beauty.
My favorite current Disney princess.
Interesting.
I know.
Yeah, so this is the end of the Silver Age. It will be a long time between this and when Disney came out with the next one, which was Little Mermaid, and sparked the Renaissance era, skipping a couple eras.
There's a little in between now and then, but this is unfortunately the death of Disney princesses for the time.
Yes, and of a specific style of Disney princess.
Oh, this is the styled Disney princess.
Yes.
The most styled, potentially.
Yeah. So, Sleeping Beauty is based on the classic story by Charles Perrault, with the adaptation done by Ermin Penner, an additional story by Joe Rinaldi, Winston Hilber, Bill Peet, Ted Sears, Ralph Wright, and Milt Banta, which directed by Les Clark, Clyde Geromini, Eric Larson, Wolfgang Tierman, and Hamilton Lusk.
Yep.
Stars Mary Costa as Princess Aurora, Eleanor Audley as Maleficent.
Yep.
And probably the second time we're doing a prince, but a more important prince.
A more vocal prince.
Bill Shirley as Prince Philip.
Absolutely.
And our sources for today's episode include Picture Perfect, The Making of Sleeping Beauty, commentary by John Lasseter, film buff Leonard Maltin, an animator and filmmaker Andre Stasia, and the Walt Disney Film Archives and Animated Movies, 1921 to 1968, edited by Daniel Kotenschlut. Specifically, the essay Walt's Moving Tapestry, The Making and Style of Sleeping Beauty, as well as various other special features on my DVD.
Your DVD had so many damn features.
Yep.
I couldn't find half of them. Partially my fault, though.
Yeah, they're also weirdly buried in some other special features.
Yeah, the menu for the DVD version we have is atrocious. Not only is it hard to find anything, but I watch a lot of this on a very small little TV in my room. It's old, it fits the time period well, and it means that I can rewatch these at 2 a.m. when my heart desires.
Yeah.
The text for this menu is so small that I physically could not read it. I had to stop and get a bigger screen. So, I mean, like we've talked about before, I love a DVD with fun things. This one has a lot of fun things. You need a magnifying glass to be able to find them, though.
On your teeny tiny bedroom TV.
On my teeny tiny bedroom TV. Which is hilarious because, A, this movie was not meant to be watched on teeny tiny anything.
No.
Despite the fact that my TV, out of everyone that we know's TV, is maybe the closest inappropriate age to watching this movie. This movie was meant to be watched on the widest possible setting. Which means that this movie somehow looks spectacular by today's standards because all of our TVs are gigantic now. This movie looks so good despite being from 1959.
Yeah, and one thing I did find fascinating before we really get into the movie is that while we say 1959, the development of Sleeping Beauty actually began in 1950.
Yeah.
And Disney was forward-thinking to use the castle of the upcoming Disneyland in 1955 as a little bit of a promotional piece, which he would redesign later to more closely match the finished movie castle.
Which means we've now talked about both U.S. Disney castles. Both of their movies are from these two. It's
also the Gate of Paris.
It is.
So I technically have seen this.
They're very cool.
But movie-wise, like the lead-up to Cinderella, there had been hit and misses between the release of Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
And this was the return to ye old bread and butter of princess movies to make that profit.
Yeah. This was also another instance of Walt with a princess movie needing this to do well, and yet stepping away from the very intense role that he had retaken up after Cinderella.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, we see a bunch of other now Disney classics. We have Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, all in between these two, now classics in their own right.
Absolutely.
But Disney itself was also changing as a company, starting to move to theme parks as well as live action films, television, and nature documentaries.
Speaking of nature documentaries, this movie originally came with a nature documentary.
Oh, did it?
I think only 30-minute long short of the Grand Canyon.
Interesting.
It's free on YouTube if anyone desperately wants to watch it. It is exactly as boring as you think it is. There's no animation to it. It's just a very short little documentary with some interesting 1950s styled clothing.
Interesting.
Interesting because, again, Pixar's not around yet, which is famous for the beginning, like, pre-Disney show, like, pre-Disney little warm-up. This was before that. Like, the idea of having a little featurette before the film was already a thing. They were just boring featurettes. We wouldn't get to the good ones until a little later.
Okay, well, that makes a little bit of sense. Maybe this is the inkling of that.
Yeah, this is also, honestly, the inkling of these stylings of the Disney parks. Both parks by this point were fully underway, if not already open, fully in the swing of about to be open, depending on if you're looking at world or land. That was Walt's main focus.
Yes.
But he wanted his movies to reflect the parks, or vice versa. So that's part of the reason this movie is styled to the nines, is he knew he was going to reuse this.
Yeah, and on top of that, it was this diversification that forced Walt to no longer be as involved as previously seen. So this is really the change of him moving away from running the animation studio to, like, okay, approving stuff, but not there on the day-to-day.
Well, we talked about with Cinderella about how he had started to do that, but he would insist that stuff be sent to him so that he could review it and then send it back, and that took a long time because he was overseas, like, being a part of the live action, which I think was for Treasure Island at the time. Like, he was moving away from the direct role all the way back in Cinderella. This movie, though, he was even more removed from this. Granted, some of the big-time Walt fans will say, no, his hand was still very much in it, he definitely promoted certain things, but honestly, the only real direction that I could find from any of the direct sources who worked with him during this film was him saying, it has to be better than Cinderella or Snow White. It has to be bigger, it has to be better.
It can't be Snow White. There's a couple others that I have listed from the commentary, but there was not as much as talking about his major influence on this movie.
No, this was really a work of a team that came together to create a very unique and, like, direct style for the movie. It worked very well, but Walt wasn't involved in that style process.
No, not at all. Well, he
had an idea of where to go.
Yeah, but he didn't have the 100% say. But also at this time, there were changes in animation. The world, in the animation world in general, beginning in 1948 with UPA Studio, who began breaking away from the Disney groundwork that Disney had set up in Snow White with the visual language and storytelling.
Yeah.
Some of people might not know who UPA Studio is. They're known for Madeline and Mr. Magoo.
Fantastic works.
Stuff I didn't really grow. I know of them. I know Madeline more so from the storybooks, but
I think I have multiple of the Madeline VHS tapes.
Okay.
Well, and not only that, not only other studios, but Disney themselves, this is the last Disney movie to be hand-inked.
Yes.
So, and some people say, oh, well, that's not an issue. Like, the ones coming up still look great. They do. They look so different, though.
Oh, yeah.
There's not that Christmas, there's not that storybook styling that we got really used to.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't the death of hand animation either. I mean, they still had other stuff that came to replace it.
Oh, absolutely.
And the last major studio to do a traditionally hand-inked film was Satoshi Kon, Millennium Actress, which, if you watch that being hand-animated is
wild.
Exactly. It's insane to see that where Disney ends up, and then where Kon, like, turned it into something in a completely different manner.
Oh, absolutely. And while it is no longer the standard, much like you just mentioned, some studios still do it just for the art of the whole thing.
Yes,
it's still going.
By last handing, I say by a major studio.
Oh, absolutely. This also, though, isn't the last time that Disney would try the stylings. This would just be the last time they physically hand-inked it. We're about to roll into a couple more computer-based animations where they would try the look of hand-inked, but all digital.
Yes. Before we get into Sleeping Beauty, what are we doing to stay awake with this later recording today, Chris?
We have a dragon fruit water for us this evening.
Infused with caffeine.
And some deliciousness, and it's purple even. How fitting.
Is it purple? I thought it was red.
Red, purple. It's dark in this room. It could be either one.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So, Sleeping Beauty. I do like that it starts off with Once Upon a Dream. It still keeps it classic.
Yes.
And cuts to back to a storybook, very much like the illuminated manuscripts, to set the tone and the style in a faraway land long ago.
And by this point, them opening to a storybook was really a trademark for Disney. We've talked about how the other two princesses that we've mentioned also started with a storybook, but they weren't the only ones. Right now, by today, somewhere between 16 to over 20 movies by Walt have the opening be a book. But even during this time period, Jungle Book starts that way, Robin Hood, Winnie the Pooh, Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. This was really kind of like a classic for them. It is a little different, though, in that it doesn't have a ton of the extra wordage that we normally see.
No, and I think it works well because it is that illuminated manuscript.
Yeah, extra shiny.
And what it does, where it exceeds outside of, not with the lack of words, compared to, if we go back to how Cinderella transitioned, and it was a little rough. This is a lot smoother because the style of the manuscript is the style of the animation. Yes. So it's a pretty smooth transition into the opening parade for Princess Aurora.
And to run with that, from the very first opening, the music to this is consistent, and it is incredibly classical.
Yes, it is drastically different.
Yes, and it is part of the reason this is my favorite Disney princess movie. The music, while mostly composed by George Burns, is all based off of Stravinsky's 1989 ballet, which is one of my favorite pieces
1890.
Ever. Oh, thank you, 1890.
Yeah, 1989 is way after this movie.
No, yeah, sorry. He was old-timey. But he is one of my favorite composers. This ballet is one of my favorites. And while this music is its own, it is not just a direct rip, despite there being a very, they take great inspiration from. It's close enough to have that classical air to it, but it's not overly Disney-fied, which is kind of what happened with Cinderella.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, too, is, it does make it set itself apart, not just visually, but musically as well, but visually, drastically different. Like we said, it's loosely based off the illuminated manuscripts.
Yeah,
it's immediately tells you that's going to be different. It's much more stylized and ornate. It's proto-Renaissance and international Gothic style, primarily the Book of Hours, and specifically of the Books of Hours, which are old prayer books.
Of course,
it was Tres Riches Heures de Jean, Duc de Berry.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
that one.
So as you can tell, it's a very medieval style, and the reason it also stands out so much is if you look at medieval drawings and paintings, there's no depth to them. There's not...
Flat.
Yeah, they are flat.
So flat.
Everything is in focus.
And this goes directly against what the Disney Animation Studio had been doing up until this point. They had worked very hard all the way back with Snow White by creating that false field of depth with having the blurry background.
Yes, and that's part of what made this so difficult as well, because it was a different style that everyone had to learn, because Walt had wanted this movie to be a moving tapestry, but he also, at the same time, learned from his past mistakes. In the making of Alice in Wonderland, Mary Blair's designs were watered down.
Yeah.
So because of this, Sleeping Beauty was given to Ivan Earl.
No, just Ivan.
Earl?
It's Irish.
Oh. To make sure this didn't happen, so he's the unifying device or the unifying person behind why Sleeping Beauty looks the way it does.
Oh, and it's gorgeous. And if you like the style of this movie, Ivan Earl later on went away from Disney to follow his own art career. He does some spectacularly beautiful paintings that, even though he does mostly landscapes of the California area and sunsets and coasts and stuff, they still manage to have this styling. Yeah. It's like he couldn't quite shake this inspiration.
Oh, it's beautiful. It works so well. And honestly, the other part that makes it stand out so differently is instead of just having like one or two moving characters, that you have an entire parade that is...
Yes, but this is the interesting part. They do move, but they don't move like people would be animated today.
No.
Like, when we talk about modern animation, a lot of the times what we really mean is CGI. And a good example of a big fancy parade, quote unquote, of people would be like Lord of the Rings, and how they managed to make mobs worth of people in computer all move and doing something a little bit different to really make you believe that this is a mob, this is a whole army. Mm-hmm. This does the same illusion, but everyone is essentially stationary and just sliding across the screen, which instead of making it feel hyper-realistic, draws you into that story and grounds you in what this reality is.
And on top of that, they have people sitting, a lot of people in the foreground or background aren't moving.
Yeah.
So it feel that you're focused on that movement and you're not fully paying attention to everything. So it's allowed to be ornate because you're not having to actually animate it traditionally.
Absolutely. And on top of that, that means that our cast of interesting characters for this movie, despite being very small, is hyper interesting because they're the only ones doing anything.
Yes. And on top of that, this is a completely different aspect ratio. So instead of the traditional kind of boxy format you have to go with,
yep,
they were using Technorama 70mm running horizontally, which made it much, much harder to work on because now not only are you having to have like a focus and a nice background,
it's so wide.
Exactly, which is why it's weird. I don't have the VHS of this. I think I think the only VHS I have is Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah.
So I am very curious how this translates to home video, because you know how like they would reformat it for home video?
This is heavily reformatted. But here's the thing. This is one of those interesting movies because this is the first time Disney used this super Technorama 70 style for a movie. Mm-hmm. And while this worked well, they didn't really come back to this right away.
No. Well, we'll get into that at the end.
And part of that is because this was the time period when people had home TVs and home movies. And so people were really starting to just watch stuff at home. This is very interesting because this is what's happening today. People aren't going to the movie theater because they can watch it at home. Mm-hmm. Granted, nowadays, our TVs are big, our sound systems at home are very good, and our aspect ratios aren't thrown off that much because our TVs kind of sort of fit the basic shape.
Yeah.
Except for mine.
It depends on like the DVD and player you have, because there's some I get that are widescreen, but I like shrinks it down. Yeah.
And this is unfortunately one of the interesting hubrises of Disney is he wanted people in theaters and in person, and for a Disney fan they say, well, that's because he liked the aspect of it, which is true. Mm-hmm. He liked the theatrics, he liked being with people, he liked it being an event. He thought of all the Disney movies as bringing people together. This was him trying to fight watching movies at home. And whether or not that some people, especially hardcore Disney fans, will agree with that statement, it's hard to deny that that's not what happened. Because people were wanting to wait till this came home. This is the equivalent of us wanting to see an IMAX film, but in our house today.
Yeah. Which
you can, it's just not as good. And it's interesting that this movie did get a re-release into VHS first. It wasn't straight to DVD. We didn't get to the like fancy new formatting until way later. But I have the old VHS tape. I did not know all the extra side stuff existed. Because when they originally cut this for VHS, which I do have one of the original VHSs, we've kept it for a very long time, it's worn to shreds. They didn't really shrink it like what we do today, where you like just kind of compress the whole thing.
They just cut off the edges.
Chopped it. So like it's beautiful when it's in that chopped format. It is not stunning in the chopped format. So when you watched this as a kid at home, because I didn't watch this in theaters, it was 1959 when this came out.
We weren't even thought. My parents weren't even born yet.
I don't know if my parents even saw this in theaters when it came out. Like, not even a question. So, like, I only experienced this movie via home theater, and we had the one VHS tape. Our family was not a rebuying sort of family. If it worked, we kept it. And so I was not aware of the, like, super wide, intense colors and backgrounds, because when they chopped it down, you chop out so much of that detailed background that you legit did not notice that there was all this extra. It wasn't until very recently that a lot of people are like, oh, I get it now. Because, and we'll get into like the in-depths of why people were not a fan of this movie, but that was part of it.
Interesting.
It's because we could not see this movie.
Yeah, like I can see where that would throw a lot of people off.
Yeah.
But even after the parade, it still is elegant inside the castle.
It's so pretty, but it's also somehow incredibly realistic. Cinderella took a very fanciful turn with its castle especially. It's not realistic in any way. It's almost in a dream world. It's too big. It's too tall. It's too airy. This one looks and feels like a medieval castle to an extreme detail.
It feels almost like, well, depends on the medieval castle.
That's true. It's not the tiny, shitty ones.
It feels more like a Gothic church.
I agree. It's got the big, tall ceilings. It's got the rooms full of people, but also somehow empty. You can see every detail of every brick. Gorgeous.
Yes. Well, and I find there's some weird things that happen with this movie because the original story of Sleeping Beauty is very short as well.
It sure is.
But the one big thing they changed was that she's engaged at birth. It's not some prince who stumbles upon her.
I kind of like it that way.
I do too. Well, I like it.
It like finishes out some questions.
I like it in a couple regards. I like that Philip looks at this baby with disgust.
Yeah,
like,
I do
what
too.
What the fuck is this thing?
I do too, because Philip is one of our few princes with any characteristics.
At least for these first three.
Honestly, for a while.
A
while. Ariel's the next prince with any form of characteristics. We gotta get through all the Dark Ages first.
And you gotta remember, Chris, I haven't touched anything really Disney princess-wise in like 20 plus years, so I've seen a lot of these movies. I just don't remember a lot of the characters in them.
That's okay, and there's a reason. Some of them are just really forgettable, unfortunately, and a lot of those are the princes.
But the one reason they did change this is because the story artist didn't like the idea of the princess being 80 years older than her prince, which allows me to think that, you hear that? Disney thought old ladies were gross.
Which is hilarious, because he kept hiring old ladies to voice his beautiful princesses.
Yeah, and I joke, they never said that old ladies are gross directly. I'm just making some dumb assumption, or dumb injecture.
Absolutely, and while Disney has a lot of faults throughout both studio and person himself, thankfully, old people was not one of them.
No.
Though, speaking of hiring older actresses to play his princesses, it is interesting that this cast specifically is really full of very predominant radio stars. Both of our leading actresses were very well into the radio world and very well known in the radio world, and continued on after this movie to be still in the radio world. And even our leading man had a pretty good radio career for a while.
Interesting. I had no knowledge of any of these, but then again, you do also listen to a lot of old radio shows.
I do, and it is interesting that some of these guys managed to carry their radio show characteristics over into some Disney movies and shows. This isn't terribly one of them. There's a little bit of similarities for some of the characters that I've noticed when listening to older fans talk about this movie specifically. They connect those dots. I don't think they're quite strong enough to say, like, that's the inspiration.
Okay.
But I can understand how if you, like, grew up listening to these radio hosts, you might hear it.
Yeah.
And I think while there was a start to that with our previous two princesses, there was radio stars on those as well. This one was a little bit more heavy-handed in picking specifically from the radio genre. And I think part of that is because Disney had learned that a good voice animation works best with someone who's already good at voice acting.
Yeah, no, I can see that now. You're not going to hire, well, now they do, but
well, now they do.
Hire non-voice actors for this. And I do kind of wonder, when did that kind of end? Because I don't know, I don't really know the history of a lot of radio shows, or like when that era was ending. It would probably be the next, 20 years or so?
We start to see the decline, honestly, in the next 10 years from this film. Once everyone had a TV in their home, most of those radio stars started moving to movies and TV. Those that couldn't retired. We have run into an interesting situation, though. we've almost come back round to radio.
I mean, what we do is basically radio.
Yes, we've essentially reinvented radio, specifically radio shows. Because there's still radio, but it has a very specific sound now. It's usually just the DJs or the morning show talk hosts. But podcasts have essentially recreated the radio acting that we used to have. There's a lot of podcasts that just create shows auditorily only, and audiobooks are now starting to do that too.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big thing because I know audiobook, and that's a weird thing too, because listening to audiobooks while you work, I know that's what they would do back in the old days in the factory. They'd hire someone to read while everyone else worked, so that way
you had something to do.
Yeah, something to keep your mind going.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And a very interesting fact is, while our main actress who plays Maleficent is, of course, the perfect role for this. She is phenomenal. She's about to show up and give a fantastic speech. She almost didn't do this. She had tuberculosis right before and told Disney no because she didn't think she could handle the recording necessary for this role.
Yeah.
But right before they started looking for someone else, she said, you know what, I am feeling a little bit better. It's going to take you a little bit to get back to me for us to do the readings. Go ahead and sign me up. And honestly, I can't imagine anyone else's voice doing Maleficent.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know enough to know who at the time would have been a good replacement.
There wasn't a lot of people on the top of the list. She was the first, and at the time, kind of the only one they were thinking of. I'm sure they would have found somebody, but she was their first pick.
Interesting. We haven't even gotten to her yet.
I know.
Because we got 3 fairy godmothers who just come out of nowhere with good vibes and can genetically alter people to be beautiful with their magic.
I love these 3 idiots. These 3 idiots are honestly what make this movie for me. They're silly, they're goofy, but they're incredibly important to the story. This movie can exist without the princess, because honestly, she's barely in this. She's a baby for part of it, she's asleep for most of it. But these 3 fairies, they're in the whole movie.
Yeah, they're endearing and they serve a purpose, which I'll get into just a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like that they're a little bit more abstract with their magic. And that, like, the visuals that they show aren't so straightforward. We see that a little bit with, like, the bubble scene in Cinderella.
Yes, and the bubble scene was a Walt classic. Walt had this big love of this dreamlike situation for princesses specifically to live in, where it's almost like a haze, there's this loveness to it, and we see that come back around when we get to the dancing scene for this, and then later on for more of the like romanticized portions. That is a Walt thing, and he insisted it be encapsulated into this movie as well.
Interesting. Yeah, well, and also, like, I like the way they build up the story of where the last fairy is about to grant the wish or grant her gift, and then Maleficent just shows up out of nowhere.
I love Maleficent in this instance because she's so petty.
Yeah, so this is a couple things, and we'll talk about it probably a little bit more in our mic review coming out.
Probably.
But when she first appears, I do like the quality of whatever they recorded, because her voice sounds a little otherworldly, makes it a little bit more on the other side of the veil.
Oh, she sounds so... She's, like, you can understand every word, but there's, like, almost an echo to her. It's so incredible.
Yeah, but there's also a lot that they don't explain with this one, where
I love that.
They call her Her Excellency, and then at the same time, it also just feels like they needed an evil antagonist, and she just fit the bill, because she's just like, fuck them kids, and then pieces out.
Yes. So there was at one point more to all 4 fairies.
Okay.
Specifically, there was the most for Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, the 3 good fairies.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They never really explain that she's a fairy. She's just some evil
She's
bitch
just an
that
evil
comes
bitch.
in.
Yeah. So in all of the scripts, Maleficent is called the evil fairy. And so it is always just assumed that she is a fairy, and yet they refer to her as Your Excellence. They explain jack shit about her. I love that. I think it makes it more mysterious. It's kind of up to whatever the kid who's watching this wants to make her. Is she the queen of fairies? Is she evil queen of fairies? Is she just a normal fairy and these 3 are just idiots? What's happening?
Is she the great green bitch?
Is she the great green bitch? Like, and when it comes down to it, you really don't need to know. Which is why all this extra stuff about the fairies was cut. in the original writings and tests for this movie, we know that Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, because we have some of the stills and writings left over from this, they originally had more backstory.
Mhm.
We assume that Maleficent probably did too, but it's lost and or nobody wants to talk about it. The three good fairies were meant to each control a different aspect of nature: flora, fauna, and the weather. And there was going to be more charades and shenanigans with these three, which is why they are so silly.
Instead, now they just grant you different forms in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, well, none of them are useful. And Maleficent turns into a really terrible boss in that game, too.
I actually like the Maleficent fight. That's one of my favorites just because it was...
You like her floating around that damn stage?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I like the fire around you and stuff.
The fire is cool.
Yeah, like, cool. It was my favorite part of Hollow Bastion, because the rest of that level sucks.
The rest of that level does suck really bad. That level's garbage. So, but they cut a lot of this extra stuff, and they cut a lot of the silly from the three good fairies, because this movie's not that silly. I mean, it's not silly, but it's a more serious telling than like the mice from Cinderella were.
Yes, well, and part of that too is, I think, with the storytelling aspect, where Maleficent, while quick and out, it gives you that little bit of hope, because while they can't break the curse, it's like, okay, well, here's the little bit of hope that only true love will break this curse. Again, bringing back the trope of true love throughout these first three movies.
Oh, absolutely. And part of the reason we know there's probably more somewhere, it's probably gone, it's lost time or whatever, there was probably more to Maleficent, because we also know a little bit about her design aspect. When talking about why she was challenging to write her lines for, all of the animators agreed that she was the sort of evil person to just stand up and monologue.
Yes, and that visually does not work most of the time.
No, and while she never does stand and monologue, she does have a slowness to her. Like, she's not rushing to cast her evil spell. No one's coming to kick her out of this castle. What are they gonna do?
Yeah, there's another movie later on that I haven't done a whole lot of research, but I love the visual style of it, where it does something similar to this. It's called Belladonna of Sadness.
Yes.
Complete watercolor style, and it is gorgeous. But they do a lot of that same thing where there's not a lot of dialogue, or when there is a lot of dialogue, the characters aren't like moving a lot.
It has that slowness to it.
Yes.
It feels more impactful. She feels extra powerful because she's not having to rush any of her words. She's not worried about anyone coming to boot her out of the palace, and then she just pieces out. Yeah,
she doesn't have to have the action, and I think that's what sets her apart, is all the other ones have to do something, and she just stands there and no one approaches. Like, they don't even send guards after her. She doesn't have to move because they know she could do something worse if they tried to go against her.
Absolutely.
But I also like how... I know it's based off the story, but how drastic burning all your forms of...
Yeah.
What's the term?
The spinning wheels?
I know they're spinning wheels. Your entire form of...
Manufacturing?
Yeah, manufacturing. There's a specific term I'm thinking of, but I can't think of it right now. It starts with a T.
Tapestry?
No, we'll move on. We'll move on.
That's okay.
But I do like that it's over the top dramatic, but it works so well because like the fire itself looks like a moving painting, and I think that's where like you start to like really see some of this. Not that the rest of the movie hasn't shown,
but it looks there's an evilness to it. Like that fire does, like, none of the fire in this movie looks friendly or inviting. All of it feels maleficent. Yeah,
it's more dynamic. That's exactly what it is.
It's very dynamic.
It's more dynamic than the last two.
And part of that is because Maleficent herself was originally supposed to look like she was on fire.
Textile, that's the word I'm thinking of.
Textiles.
You destroy your entire means for textile industry.
No, this entire nation is going to be naked in 10 years, but that's okay. The princess is safe.
Yes.
But
16.
16 years we're very naked. Extra naked.
They're going to have to import this from everywhere else.
They are. Yeah, they don't really talk about the implications of this.
Actually, that is an interesting idea. Do you think I know their clothings don't change, but if this was a real thing...
If this was a real thing.
how their culture would change 100% after this, because
this would be devastating to their economy.
Well, they'd also be importing foreign styles, so their entire clothing style would be completely different.
And they would have such a weird excess of wool and potentially cotton, depending on what this. I'm assuming cotton. Oh, assuming wool based off of the time period and the rough area that this is supposed to be based in. What are they going to do with all this wool? They have to start exporting it.
Hey, business.
Is this a good business plan?
I don't know.
I'm gonna say no, but no, actually, maybe this is a good business plan, because later on they build a whole ass castle for their unwed children.
Yeah.
Who are teenagers.
Hey.
A whole castle!
Hey, what, you're making that wool money.
That's true. That's true, I guess. I don't know. I know there are countries that had to have done that in the past. We don't have time to talk about that.
No. But I also like how the fairies are, like I said, they are more dynamic in this, where they're trying to find a more a solution to, like, hey, how can we help out?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're going to take her away. This is going to be our solution. And it sets up a couple things. One, I like that it sets up their little bit of magic of their dress rivalry.
I love that.
But also that they can only use their magic for good, which I do have a question later on about this.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's like what they're trying to set up.
Yes.
And what's interesting is they've taken away the roles of the comedic relief animals.
Yeah, and they've replaced them with 3 idiot women.
Yes.
I love it. I love this group of characters.
Oh, they're fun. They honestly do make me think a little bit of Hocus Pocus.
I agree.
Yes.
I completely agree. And part of it's because they fall into the 3 main tropes, which you mentioned Hocus Pocus. There is kind of a reoccurrence of this 3 trope of women, in the same way that Three Stooges has kind of like the same 3 characteristics. You got the one smart one, you got the dumb one, and you got the like athletic but less stupid.
Shonen, you got the 2 male rivals, you got the female love interest.
It's the similar, like, we have a standard trope. This one is playing off of it. It was probably more popular, honestly, at the time that this came out than it is today. Just because, like, we really don't have 3 women idiots very often in movies today. We've kind of moved on to a different 3 idiots.
Yeah, 3 kick-ass women like Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, we've evolved to a different group of humor.
Yeah.
But this was a pretty common trope almost all the way up until the 60s. There was quite a few TV shows that had this trope. While maybe not all 3 were the main cast, there was multiple reoccurring characters that would fill in this role with like one main female lead. This is an interesting readapting of it, while also padding out a very fairy tale based story. Like we talked about with Snow White, that one stuck very true to the fairy tale aspects of it, meaning that none of it made a whole lot of sense when you started dissecting it, which nowadays is a lot of people's complaint, right?
Yeah.
This is their attempt at logicking their way through a fairy tale, which it made it last a little longer, I think. I think it gave it some of that cult status once it hit home theater, because the audience could logic with you. It's the best way they could come up with modernizing this princess, too, because, like we've talked about with both other princesses, everyone has to be more modern than what she originally was. She has to meet modern women's standards.
Yeah.
This is the best they can do, because this princess is barely in here. We have to do something.
Yeah.
And so this is a very interesting way of, without necessarily directly influencing our main woman, our main princess, we have brought the whole story into a more modern understanding, but maintained that fairy tale base. It still follows all the logic. We still have all of the fairy tale aspects. We aren't told everything, but we're told just enough so that you follow along with the logic. Yeah,
because that's the other thing with, like, the logicking. The most other explanation we get from Maleficent is that she's all powerful outside of love and happiness, and just like that. She's
all powerful in evil.
Yeah,
which is everything? Question mark.
Outside of happiness and love,
which does kind of make me miss a little bit of that extraness that we know the good fairies had at one point, where they had different aspects they were in charge of, which helped balance Maleficent out, because technically everything is evil if you try hard enough.
Yeah.
Which makes her very overpowered.
Very much so. Well, and also when we talked about the personalities of the fairies, this is something that, while we talked that Walt had overseeing and final say on a lot of stuff,
he sure did.
This is where you can see some of the pushback on him,
Yeah.
where the directors wanted to have them all different personalities, which they won.
They did.
But Walt at the time had wanted them to be more like Huey, Dewey, and Louie, kind of like your generic side animals.
And we have some test animations of these three being more idiots.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening was the test runs for this, and even Walt himself eventually admitted, they end up being a little bit too much like the character Goofy.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of harboring in on kind of the happy quaintness of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, partially because they are offset with their uncle or the Scrooge McDuck, these three don't have that.
No.
Because while as pretty as Aurora is, and honestly I do think well done, she's nothing to balance these three. So it just ended up being too much slapstick, and so they toned it way back. We still get some humor from them, because they are the comedic relief. We do need to have some humor in a children's film.
Mm-hmm.
But Walt wanted this at first to be very silly, wanted them to be very goofy, very animated and physically humorous. And after a few of these test panels, he was like, actually, you know what, this is really stupid. And actually, a lot of the animation that they did for this did get reused. Those gags got reused for Goofy himself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, if you gotta, just use it.
Walt Disney reuses a lot of stuff, whether or not they want to admit it.
Yeah. No, but I also do think it's interesting as we move further in the story of having to transition back to the book to show that time's passed,
which works. I think it's not too aggressive, and we do need to speed this process up a little bit. And honestly, so that's where we get to Maleficent and her motivations. That why I don't. There are some things that I don't get, because it's okay, one, her castle's cool. Her castle is really dope.
But why is she so angry about not being invited? It just feels like a small petty snub that...
We will never know. And this is where I honestly think it's a bit of a genius move. Because if they gave a logic and a reason, then there would be pushback on that logic, right? If we said, oh, well, she is sniped because her and the king once had a fling and he'd wronged her and now she holds a grudge against him. Well, there's some logic there. There's some wow, that's not very that can age a little differently depending on where we are as an audience, right?
Okay.
If you just leave it vague, she's mad she wasn't invited. Well, the logic and reasoning is up to you. Is she mad because she's jealous? Is she mad because she's just a bitch? It doesn't matter. The outcome ends up being the same.
There's this one magical creature out there who's angry at you and you don't know why she's angry.
But here's the thing. That logic does kind of work. Because, again, they only call her a fairy. This is an old-timey fairy tale. Mm-hmm. And old-timey fairies are, say it with me, bitches.
Depends on the lore and depends on the fairies.
And this is a combination of two very different fairies. We know that.
Yeah.
We know this is a combination between the impish fairies of the Germanic stylings and then the more happy-go-lucky fairies that were later popular in England, where they grant you wishes and are your fairy godmother and isn't that cute and fun, and then compared to fairies are bad and they will eat your toes. This is both fairies existing in one world, and that makes sense because by this point in Disney's fairy tale telling, we have bridged too far from just sticking with the original stylings and just getting rid of the too bloody bits.
Yeah, you have to add a little bit extra to the story.
And on top of that, while this is a classic fairy tale for sure, this is not as well known a fairy tale as the first two. The first two were readily in print and very common. This one, most people probably knew it from the ballet, which was heavily padded and mostly about the music, not really about the story.
Yeah, I haven't dived too much into the French version. I'm pretty sure there's a German one.
Of course there is, there always is.
Yeah, and they all stem from a similar background. But...
Yeah, and while they weren't not popular, they were by no means the same weight as our first two.
No, not at all. Like I said, This one of the three is the shortest of the tales. It's only like 2 paragraphs.
And it's less of a tale and more of just like a quick like, oh yeah, don't do that. Kind of like Boy Who Cried Wolf, where like technically it's the whole story. You don't need it. You really just need the 2 paragraphs.
Yeah, there's also an impregnation and child that they get rid of for good reason.
And again, Disney needs to update this to not only a modern audience, but they really like to scrub out the gross stuff.
Yeah.
And when half of the story is gross stuff, you're left with not a lot.
No.
So bringing in the random-ass fairy evil queen bullshit, I mean, it distracts you from the actual evil, which was in the original movie, The Prince, but also just, like, distracts you, like, brings you back into the idea of, like, oh yeah, this is meant to be a fairy tale. This is supposed to have, like, some magic to it. You're not supposed to know everything. Despite the original not really doing that.
No, not really at all. But also with expanding this, what do you think of the Chimera minions?
I love them.
Okay.
But I have a very specific why I love them.
Alright.
I love them because they are a very cute version of what will later come.
Into the Black Cauldron, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I love the Black Cauldron. It is by far my favorite Disney animated film. But it's much darker, it's much grittier, and it's much more realistic in, like, its horror elements than this is.
Okay.
This keeps that medieval gothic literature stylings where, yes, it's beautiful, it's hyper detailed, you are very involved in the world, you believe it fully, but at the same time it looks like a piece of art. You're never truly too scared to really keep going. Granted, there's a few parts that some children have reported like, oh gosh, that was a little bit much. But it's more of like a jump scare, the idea of scary, as opposed to Black Cauldron, which has as close to children's horror as Disney has gotten in its major motion pictures. With the exception of 2.
Yeah, The Watchers and, what was it, Beastmaster? No, Dragon Slayer?
Dragon Slayer.
Yeah.
Which Disney would like to argue Dragon Slayer doesn't count.
It's got full back nudity.
We don't judge butt cheeks.
Hey, I'm not complaining. We can't judge butt cheeks. We
have.
We talked about how the main character in Tokyo Gore Police had no ass.
That's true. I still feel strongly about that. This movie does try to bridge the, like, Disney still wanted this to be for a young audience. And yet, this is getting closer and closer to that border where they couldn't quite tell when the pushback was going to start.
Yeah.
And Disney will hit that pushback with a couple of different ones. This is getting close to the spookiness. There's also going to be coming up close in a few, like, I think the next, after the Renaissance, we will get close to the, wow, that was too damn sad, Disney. You need to tone it down. You cannot have me crying that hard in the theater. They do that twice.
Okay.
They didn't learn from the first time. They did it again, and honestly, they haven't tried that hard since. Okay. Looking directly in your eyes in Fox and the Hound.
I don't remember. I haven't seen it in like 25 years.
There's a lot of people who watched that movie once and said, I will never be watching that again.
Is it Grave of the Fireflies sad?
Kind of, but in a different way. Grave of the Fireflies is sad because you know it's a very historically based, real problem that happened, and thus that grief can't leave you because that is the reality. Yeah. Whereas with Disney's sadness, it has some basis and similarities to real life. But at the same time, you can break yourself away from it. Same way that, like, Where the Red Ferns Grow, incredibly sad. Most people are not going to have to deal with that problem in their real life.
I've never read Where the Red Ferns Grow. I know
you don't need to.
I know the name of it. I just don't know anything about it outside of the name.
Yeah, like it's one of those things that, like, the legend runs before the story because people have had such sad reactions to it, right? Even though most people have not had to put their own dog down with a gun in the backyard, sort of situation.
Okay.
Disney runs close to that border emotionally multiple times. This is them getting about halfway.
Oh, are the ferns red because they're covered in blood?
I will not spoil any of this book for you. There's a movie you can watch. It's Disney owned, I think.
Well, then maybe it's not blood.
I will spoil nothing.
Okay.
It's so short. Both the movie and the book are so short, Nico.
I don't read a lot of nonfiction.
You can watch it.
Maybe.
If you watch the movie, I will take you to the place where part of it is filmed. It's only like 30 minutes from here.
Oh, shit. All right.
But the Disney pushes and pushes for these big emotional responses, and it starts off in the love and hope. That's where we were with both of our original princesses. This is the most balanced Disney princess because we haven't gotten too spooky like we will with the Dark Ages princesses. We're not too sad like we're going to with the Resurgence.
I thought the Dark Ages didn't have princesses.
Technically, the Black Cauldron has a princess,
but she's not a Disney princess like the.
She is not. She is not the Disney princess.
Yeah. Okay. I see now what you're saying with the what was it, the pink something?
The Pink Void.
The Pink Void.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
don't call your wife that.
No, don't. This princess does and has always lived in the Pink Void. She has always been a capital P Disney princess.
Yeah.
More Disney princesses will come, and they will legally be princesses. Or even queens, but they will not be Disney princesses.
Okay. For me, going back to the Chimeras real quick.
I love them. They're so cute.
I'm fine with them. They're just that bit dumb that, like, they have a funny enough gag to explain the delay in finding her because they thought they were looking for a little girl, but it also does make all this preparation they've done feel kind of stupid because she could have probably hidden in plain sight. We know she's not that far away from the castle.
They're just literally right next door.
Yeah.
The other thing I like about them, though, is the styling of them is almost a one-for-one for multiple tapestries depicting devils that are medieval or even gothic in their styling.
Yeah.
And I really like that it's very similar to, like, just watching one of those tapestry comes to life.
Without going full Hieronymus Bosch.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing with them is, like, I like them enough because I do relate with Maleficent a little bit here.
With her idiot minions?
Yes.
How are you and your cats handling the idiot minionry?
My cats are the idiot
of
minions.
Of course they are.
That's me dealing with them. It's like, anytime Jack gets his zoomies and starts running around breaking crap, I'm like, God, you little bastard.
And, okay, but this is where, again, it's that fairy tale logic of, like, they spent almost 16 years or something like that looking for her.
And on top of that, I have so many other... There's so much dumb shit that happens
in
this
love
movie.
it, though.
Because, yeah, it's her 16th birthday, real rundown house. It feels, like, very cottagey.
I love it.
But also, like, even her dress book is an illuminated manuscript.
Yes. Like, they are so bad at being poor.
Yeah, her expressions are really nice, but the one thing that gets me about this movie is that they're like, oh, we'll do a real birthday cake. They have never done anything for this girl, anything special in 16 years, nor have they figured out basic cooking.
Okay, you did miss a very, very specific line then.
Okay.
They have been doing all of this stuff. This is their last year to do it, and so they're switching roles.
So why did they say a real party with real cake? So what have they been making for her?
No. The one fairy wants to make real cake. A different fairy has been baking her birthday cakes every year.
So they're just getting they're outsourcing their jobs, basically?
They're all rotating who does what.
Oh.
Because it's their last year to finally make a dress, bake a cake, put on a party, and they've all done different roles this whole time. And so they're like, well, this is the last hurrah. I want to make the cake this year.
See, that's the thing is, I don't buy that.
It's so briefly mentioned.
Okay, well...
And part of that's because this is the scene that was overly goofy. So there's a lot missing from this, actually.
Okay, well, and here's the thing. Here's why I don't believe that.
Okay.
Is, one, they're not stupid enough to have, like, not know what a cup is. Because, like, the cups she uses are all different size and all different fillings.
Yes.
And then also... Like, they don't know...
The fold in the eggs bit gives me the cackles every time.
It's fine.
It's hilarious to me. And here's why it's hilarious to me, is because this gag, especially the cooking gag, is still the basis for TV today. There are multiple shows on the Food Network right now where you can watch really shitty chefs attempt to bake a cake.
Huh.
To the point of, like, fold in the eggs, we'll do that. Like, what is a tisp? Like, that is the format for more than one show on TV right now, on daytime TV.
Fascinating.
So, like, while I would love to agree with you that, like, it is over the top. I will give you that. It is over the top. Okay. It's over the top because even in the 50s and almost 60s, that was already a pretty standard gag for someone, especially a woman, to be so exponentially bad at baking or cooking that it's, like, that gross. Like,
It-
a full eggshell folded into the cake bad.
It's the opposite of what a woman's expected to be of the time.
Exactly. And there was more than one sitcom TV show starring a woman who was that bad at home ec, or whatever you want to call it, that bad at sewing, that bad at making food, that bad at keeping house. That was a pretty standard gag that kept going all the way until the 2000s. Like, this was a pretty, like, standard, like, tee-hee. It got toned down, it got rearranged, but, like, think about all of the 80s ones where the mom can only microwave a dinner. It's the same gag, just slightly different.
80s is a little bit more different social context because of the latchkey generation and women weren't more apparent in the workforce, so that's where that gag comes from a little bit more.
A little
bit. I can see where you're going, where like it continues slightly with that history.
Yeah, no one can re-nuke a pizza quite like Mom.
Well, I grew up spoiled, I guess.
I did too. I grew up with women who like were very good at this sort of stuff. So like it was funny to me, but only because I had seen the TV shows that this was probably referencing.
Okay.
And the other part to note is like from a Disney animator's standpoint, part of the reason they put this in was the direct contrast of the story itself. The spinning wheel would have been the centerpiece of the home and the main occupation of the woman during the evenings.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple Grimm's fairy tales where that's the big plot point is like, oh, well, now you have to spin. Rumpelstiltskin
Rumpelstiltskin, yes. And so the spinning wheels, every woman in the country has given up her main source of, like, work in the home after hours. That spinning wheel would have been the main sound that the people heard in their house. So this is a bit of the animators also doing a bit of a, like, extra poke at the fact that this story is making women who would have been good at the home bad, because they have to get rid of their expensive spinning wheel. They can no longer do that.
Yeah. Actually, that brings up a good question. Where's Aurora getting her clothes? Because she's 16. She's had some growth spurts along the way. She's not a baby anymore.
And this is where I think it is a very clever jab by the animation team themselves. Because if you are paying very good attention to the details, the outside of this house is very ransacked. It's got holes in the thatch. It is disgusting. Like, it has got a tree growing through the middle.
Well, because a lot of that's man's work.
Well, yes, but also, remember, they're supposed to be like, oh, we're poor peasant women, right? That was like their whole shtick.
We're three spinster ladies sharing a lovely evening at home.
Exactly.
Not sucking the lives out of children, but...
No. But here's the thing. They have multiple bolts of very expensive, nicely dyed fabric. They have a manuscript on how to make dresses. That would not have been a thing. You would have known that from your mother. You would have just known that. You would not have had patterns. They have a cookbook. That is not a thing that a spinster woman would have had. She would have had all of that memorized. If she had anything, it would have been a really thin little booklet that would have been mass printed if possible. But at the time period that this is probably meant to be, nope. Granted, cookbooks were for rich households. They were for the king's people. They were for the king's, like, friends, so that they knew what to cook for the other rich friends when they came to visit.
Yeah, I mean, this is about the time, like, The Art of Cookery is coming out, which you gave me, so...
I did.
I do know how old some cookbooks can be, and yes, you are right, these were written for the upper class, but you gotta remember, they probably left the castle with some supplies. Her dress book is an illuminated manuscript.
They're being bad at being poor.
Yeah.
Like, not only are they, like, they have these illuminated texts, they have a cookbook, they have enough stuff to bake a sugary cake, a big sugary cake. But they've done this every year for her birthday. Maybe not this extravagant, this is her 16th. But they imply that they have lived well enough that, like, this is like a charade.
Yeah, well,
and they're bad at it. They're bad at the charade of being poor.
We're also reading too much into it, because remember, Chris, you even have said multiple times past these few episodes, is that they always have to modernize it. And so when we think of a cake, we're thinking of something sugary instead of, like, just flour, water, the fancier bread that we would think of back in the day.
Absolutely. This is a 1960s birthday cake. It is even styled like several popular birthday cakes of the time, granted with less of the decorative frosting that would have been popular. This is a 1960s cake. This is by no means a 1700s cake.
Yeah.
Those would have been sad and honestly kind of gross. They would mostly been spiced and, like, probably had an unnecessary amount of fruit or vegetables put in them.
Well, because that's how you get your sugar.
And they probably would have, like, a whole egg baked in the middle for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, this is a very modernized thing, but having listened to the animation and director staff talk a little bit about this, I also think that there was them being a little cheeky about, like, the fairies are not truly comfortable
Well,
at being poor, so they've given themselves some luxuries.
well, not even just that, they're also not humans. So
No, and, like...
they're pretending to be human.
And, like, this is very much, that's what it is for them. They're pretending.
Yeah.
They're honestly kind of having a good time, because they get to pretend to be the aunties. They've raised this cute baby for the 16 years. They've gotten to play house.
Yeah.
And they get to play house with some magic, as we learn that they're not super strict with the wand.
Well, this is their only time they've brought it out.
That they tell us, yeah.
Yeah. But it is interesting going from that to really our first and almost only, she's only in like 3 scenes in this entire movie actively.
So lightly in this movie.
For some reason they changed her name to, is her actual name Briar Rose?
No, okay, so this is the confusion of the, like, fairy tale. In one version of the fairy tale, the character's name is Sleeping Beauty. In a different one, her name is Aurora. And in a third version of the tale, depending on what country, it's Briar Rose.
Yeah.
So Disney combined all 3 and gave her all 3 names.
So then why are they even giving her another name if they're hiding so far out in the woods that no one's gonna find them?
Well, you do have to remember that at this time, a person named after the long-lost princess would be pretty recognizable. It's not like today where, like, oh, you have a Diana in your family? How fun. Did you know the princess's name is Diana? That would not have been done.
Well, we'd get another Anastasia.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone in the kingdom would have known that the princess's name is Aurora. Not everyone would have known she's gone into hiding, potentially.
Yeah.
So, like, you didn't name your kid Prince Philip.
They probably would. She would have gone into a cloister of some kind because they burned their entire means of textile production.
They did, but also, realistically at this time period, you were named after your parents, or you were named after the Bible. Aurora is neither of those things. Aurora is a very specific name, and it's named via the, like, fairy tale logic. So, like, this is the equivalent of her name literally being Prince Charming. She's the brightest star in the sky.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do also like this scene, too, because, one, this scene was the longest it took to animate.
It's so gorgeous.
It took them, I think, every 3 days, they only got, like, 1 second of film.
I love that. This did, in fact, put the movie way over budget.
Yes.
Like, crazy over budget.
And this is where we have that reoccurrence of she's so pure, the animals are drawn to her.
Yes.
And everything is lush and beautiful. And, like, even when we get introduced to Prince Philip, much, much older, he is drawn to her because of the mysterious sound. Again, the gifts that the fairies gave her were song
are
and
on
beauty.
display.
Yeah, and honestly, like, this is also, we don't fully get away from the animals being a character, because even
they still are.
Well, Philip's horse has a characterness of its own, which I know, what's his name, Flynn Rider in Cinderella, their later, Tangled, that's Pixar's.
Yes.
It kind of makes me think of, like, the little clips I've seen of that, or Stefan the reindeer?
Christopher and Stefan. Yeah. Disney has honestly a rather limited palette when it comes to horse-esque creatures designs, but they have gotten pretty good at it. Because while Philip is a good character and, like, fairly human, the horse does animate quite a lot for him. There's a lot of characterization happening.
The horse in Mulan too, similar personality.
It's almost the same shape too.
Yeah, it's not that they animate them the same. They give them the exact same personalities. The only horse that doesn't have the same personality is the one in Cinderella.
Yeah.
And Snow White, because that horse is
just
nothing. A horse.
He is just a horse. Well, and part of that comes from, by this point, everyone on the Disney team was very used to having that character study of what certain characters, or especially certain animals, were meant to represent in their animation. So, like, we have the birds being part of the lifting action, the twirling action. That's where a lot of our visuals come from to move scenes to scenes.
Yeah.
Our squirrels are there to help with snaps going from one transition to another. So, like, they'll disappear behind a tree. That gives us time to reappear behind a different tree, kind of disguising the fact that we've slid stuff around.
Yeah, change it instead of, like, It's where you would make the hard cuts movies to show, like, hey, this is where we cut the camera, but we're sneaking that in.
And so we already had a formula pretty well established by this point on what certain animals did where, and horses played the exact same role as dogs for Disney, because if you had one, you probably didn't have the other. So they both had a lot of very humanistic characterizations. They were a little bit silly, but they were there to kind of emphasize whatever their human was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So, feeling a little embarrassed, horse does something a little embarrassing and then shows a little bit of a guilty face. Maybe not the most realistic horse actions, but it kind of helps give that extra little oomph to our slightly bland prince.
Yeah. Well, this prince is the least bland of them all.
I agree, but I honestly think that the horse adds a lot, especially because he's going to come back and be with our prince for most of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes back for the final fight, even.
Yeah, no, very much so. And this is where we get, like, really the first... This is the first song of the movie, isn't it?
It is the only song of the movie that the characters sing.
They dance to some of the other ones. Okay.
Well, there is song at the very beginning. There's Welcome Princess Aurora, like, is sung.
Right, yeah.
But it's sung in, like, a chorus, and no one person is singing it. As far as the Disney trope of, like, oh, well, we have to have a musical sing and dance, this is the only one, and this is by far the closest to Tchaikovsky's ballet by a long shot. Okay. This is almost note for note in some instances.
Yeah, well, and even with this little bit we get of her is this song... Longing for Romance, but it's not a ditzy song.
No, this is the most mature we have gotten out of a princess.
Yeah, I do have questions, though, because if she's been hidden away for 16 years, how does she know what a man looks like, and how does she know she wants that?
Welcome to princess logic, my man. Because that's the trouble with Disney princesses, right? Is we, especially here, we are at our height of pure and beautiful and good. Mm-hmm. Because she only has about 5 seconds worth of film to prove to us that she is good, pure, and sweet. And you can't have both worlds, right?
Yeah, you gotta make her have some romantic interest to build that tension, but also, like, still keep her sweet and innocent.
And this is where the update or modernization of the Disney princess, for some people, especially nowadays, gets a little bit lost in translation. I think most people can see that update to Cinderella and especially to Snow White. Mm-hmm. This one I think gets lost a little bit, partially because the animation is so good. Like, this still looks like a very modern piece, right? Like, you don't notice that this is old.
Yeah, this movie is... We will potentially see its 100-year anniversary.
I completely think we will. And because this movie doesn't look old, people don't put old logic to it. No. This movie is just before the 60s, and while you might not like it, even though she's meant to be 16, she is meant to be a modern version, by that standard, of what a woman's ideals should be. Mm. So she is meant to have some strength, she's meant to have some ideas for herself, so she wants love, she wants a romance, and she wants to, like, go off on her own eventually. These are all things that she quickly sings about to let us know what it is that she wants, because those are the ideals of the time period. Now, the other part that people get pissy about is her shape and her design. Remember, she is meant to look like the Disneyfied versions of the tapestries of old. Specifically the one for the unicorn, which has the big luscious hair. It has a pinched waist, not as much as Disney, but Disney, this is what Disney does, right?
Yeah, she's not Betty Boop.
She's not Betty Boop. Disney does this. This is the shape of Disney, but she's a characterization of that old tapestry, where we have the young maid, especially the unicorn one, where it's the most pure, the most good, like, she's represented by the unicorn. She has the long flowing hair. This is where a lot of people lose that translation, and I think part of it is because this movie looks a little bit too modern. Like, we forget that, like, this has very specific reference points to it, and that it has a very specific time period that it's aimed at. Not just today, like, it's held, it's still good, but this is aimed at a 1960s audience. Yeah. Very heavily.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's beautiful blonde.
Yeah, and I mean, like, she has the hourglass figure, it's over-exaggerated, but part of that is also to, like, re-emphasize the silhouette that we were seeing from those tapestries. Okay. Really hammer it home in, like, an over-the-top way, because we only have, like, 5 minutes to deal with her.
Yeah, really, because we gotta get her to sleep.
Yeah.
But I do also in this scene appreciate, like, while we talk about, like, they don't really do the gags like the other ones, this is the only part where we have kind of that classic Disney gag with the animals pretending to be the prince.
It's cute.
But it's not used in the gaggy way like the past as like a filler. It's used as an organic way to bring the two together.
And it feels a good enough connection, because again, we have so little time with these two characters knowing each other, that it feels like enough of a, like, love on first sight romance. And we already know what her what her desires are. We kind of already know his, because we've kind of been pre-shadowed that. We see the parallels. And we've already been told that there is the romantic love, like, predestined, right?
Yeah.
So it works, I think. Granted, I see why a modern audience isn't a fan, but with the extra lenses and background knowledge, I do think it does its job.
Well, I think it works at pushing Disney in a different direction because the animals aren't needed to portray subplots or parallel stories like we saw in Cinderella.
True.
They're just kind of an aspect of the movie that gets forgotten about because this is the only scene we really see them in.
That's true. And a lot of people will also notice that several of these character designs for the animals, they're going to come back in a different film just a few years later. But unfortunately, that film made no money.
Interesting. But I do like when they do meet is that she is very cautious at first, but it's still love at first sight.
Absolutely.
And how innocent and carefree she is, because like immediately meets him and is like, come over later tonight, we're having my birthday.
Yeah, and
while running away from him too.
Yes, and again, this is very 1960s logic.
Yeah.
Like, this works. I know it's not by modern standards like a good representation, and we'd probably be like, girl, why are you inviting a random stranger to your house?
Stranger danger.
But this is the 1950s and 60s. This is not. It's a totally different mindset.
She's also lived a good life where she hasn't had to worry about the cautions of the world around her.
And remember, not only was the world like meant to be viewed through like a little bit more rosy tint in the 50s and 60s, especially in movies and TV, she's also meant to be the personification of good, right?
Yeah.
Like, good people don't suspect others of robbing them.
No.
That's just kind of what she's supposed to do.
Yeah,
it'd be weird if she was weary.
Yeah, she's supposed to be open to the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I do like when we do get back to the cottage.
The shack.
That's the one thing is, like, I don't... The other parts I don't get, of, like, why they tried hiding her history from her.
Well, we don't want her to run away in a fit of teenage whimsy.
No. But it's also just like, hi, ladies, I found man meat, and just...
Invited him over.
Yeah, but they're just like, oh, here's the truth. We gotta take you away. Sorry, no actual birthday party.
And once again, we end up at that fairy tale logic that does clash a little bit with how this is trying to be modernized. I see what they're doing. I see why it does work. It's just, it's such a specific lens that you keep having to remind yourself is existing.
Yeah, it falls under that trope of, like, teenage drama where it's like, no, you can't date this strange man that you just met.
And
but I love him, and she runs upstairs and flings herself on the bed. Yeah.
Well, and isn't it funny that Disney eventually will become so self-aware that is literally the plot of one of their movies?
What?
Frozen. That is literally the plot of one of the movies, minus the sister having magic powers. I love him. What do you know about him? He likes sandwiches.
Yeah?
We're meant for each other, damn it. You don't know me at all.
To be fair, we're still in that era where, like, women were marrying serial killers and not knowing it.
That's true. I think that might still happen, though.
Yeah, well, marrying them after, like, 2 weeks of knowing them.
Yeah. I'd like to say that doesn't happen anymore, but I know some people who have done that. So,
yeah.
You know, we haven't come that far.
Yeah. And I get why they have to do this. It's to rush the story along.
And honestly, like, you have to remember, Disney wanted this to be a family-friendly for everyone, not just little girls.
Well, that is the thing, is, like, it gives it a hard stop of, like, okay, we can stop this part of the story to go back to see what they're doing at the Capitol. Which
introduces my two favorite father figures.
This is something that, well, I do appreciate it.
I think they're hilarious.
It would not, I know 100% it would not fly in a Disney movie today.
No, they would never do this gag ever again, and that's part of why I love it.
Yeah, it's that old era of, like, drunken humor of stuff. Like,
yes.
It's something that annoys me, and, like, and this is a different rant too, but, like, there's video games that I liked as a kid, and I still like their remakes.
Yeah.
But they remove like the alcohol references, and I know part of it's due to laws, but like the Story of Seasons games have started removing them, and it's just like, but that was a big part of it. Like, there's a winery that you work at.
Yeah. No, and while Disney will not shy away from the drunken scenes for a while. For a long while, actually. The Disney movies, for some reason, have a tendency to end up with one of their characters drunk, but it ends up being portrayed as, like, weird hallucinogens half the time.
Yeah, that was earlier in Dumbo. Wait, doesn't the scruffy little thing in Black Cauldron get drunk?
Maybe?
I'm pretty sure he does.
Probably. It's one of those reoccurring tropes of Disney. It's dead now, for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
We've moved far enough away, but Disney was not terribly shy about showing its characters getting drunk, even if that character was meant to be a child. Which, interesting choice.
What?
Dumbo was a baby, and he is wasted off his fucking ass.
Wasn't Dumbo before? No.
Dumbo's later.
Oh.
Dumbo is yet to come, I think, as far as I remember. But even then, like, it is a running trope, it is a running gag, much like a couple other things that, like, waited a little bit too long to be gotten rid of Disney.
Yeah.
This is one of them. Granted, some people think it's more egregious than others. That's up for you to decide. Disney wouldn't do this today, but they would do something similar. The idea of having two silly dads goofing it off, I think we would probably end up just losing the jester. Because as cool and fun as he is, and, like, he is hilarious, he keeps the sillies going, he kind of speeds up their talks. He's not necessary.
No.
So a modern Disney probably would do this, but minus him.
In a different manner, too.
Yeah,
okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's a way to start building up the conundrum of, like, okay, well, these two are betrothed. Neither of them remember that they're betrothed at all. I mean, one of them was a baby. And
it sounds like Prince Philip isn't really interested in this mysterious princess. He wants to find true love. He doesn't want to just be betrothed.
He's found true love is the issue now.
Which I kind of love for him, because, like, this, for the audience, you feel good being like, oh, but they were already engaged, but now they love each other. So you get that, like, modernization of the betrothal.
Yeah, it's adding funny to the drama with the parents that, okay, well, now their plans are unexpectedly coming together.
Well, and another thing to remember is this also means that for a 1960s audience, they can feel a little bit better about two children being promised to marry each other. Because now as adults, or quote-unquote adults, they have fallen in love separately outside of this. Yeah. It kind of softens the reality of what happened.
It's still, because if you look at their ages of, like, when he was looking at the cradle of her just being born, he's probably in his early 20s.
I would like to remind you that this is the 60s.
I know.
And that age gap would have been pretty normal.
Yeah, no, I'm aware. It just, from today's standards, it'd be a little weird.
That's kind of the interesting thing, is while this movie tried very hard to modernize itself for a 1950s audience, it modernized itself a little bit too close to the sun, and now has come back around to being unmodern. Like, that age gap, not necessarily anything wrong with it, but she's 16.
Mm-hmm.
That's a red flag by modern day standards. Most people would watch this and be like, 16? I didn't hear 16. She's 18. Like,
yeah,
like
it comes from a different era.
It comes from a different era. It's interesting that they worked so hard to modernize it, but they got too specific.
Yes. Also, important part at this point. The princess had more lines in this entire movie than either of the other princes combined.
That is true, which is impressive, because honestly, he really doesn't need to say much. No. He really could have just been like, Father, I found love, bye!
Yeah, well, I do like the way they build this up to continue to build it, of, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go away from the castle, and the three god fairies,
come towards the castle,
bring her back to the castle.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to flip the two lovebirds.
Uh-huh.
Location, and also build up that tension, so that way the crow can bring the cause rifts in the happiness, because we forgot to talk about the crow.
I love this crow.
The reason the wand duel is so important with them, like, doing their song, is because it alerts the crow that, hey, there's magic happening here. Who else could be using magic other than the
three idiots?
Yeah, the three dipshits.
The other fun fact is the crow was not originally a crow.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, the crow was, at one point, a vulture. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then at one point, he was also a very menacing falcon, which I do think is kind of close to what we ended up with.
Yeah, they couldn't do the vulture because that'd be Snow White all over again.
It would, and on top of that, like I said, Disney has very, limited designs when it comes to certain ones. We'd already covered the vultures in Jungle Book, so we'd already made them a little bit goofier as opposed to menacing. We'd already covered the 2 options for vultures. Crow, pretty new. We hadn't really done that. Falcon, we will eventually get back to.
Okay.
They will eventually make an evil falcon.
Yeah, I know, Mulan.
It's the best falcon.
Yeah.
What a good pet falcon. There to take over the world.
Yeah. But I do have questions about... I know you said there was probably some other stuff that was cut.
There was. Oh, there was.
Because Aurora, while mopey now...
Yeah, so sad.
Gets hypnotized and drawn to the shiny object like a woman to cheese.
Fair logic. Okay, so this is another evidence of their modernization. The original fairy tale, there's no hypnotism. She's just an idiot and touches it. Because she can't listen to directions.
Well, and also, Maleficent got into the castle, and, but she's also not really there. It ends up being, some illusion that she precast or something.
So, her being hypnotized was entirely the director's team trying to update Aurora to keep the innocence, to keep the goodness, while getting around the fact that, a good person, a good 16-year-old can listen to directions and not touch something. Which is the whole premise of the first one, is that she cannot listen to goddamn directions and not touch it. So they hypnotize her to get around that and modernize her to be okay, well, she did it, but not of her own accord. It was against her will. She wouldn't have done it if she hadn't been hypnotized.
But would she have done it if she was still at the cabin?
Well, there's no spinning wheel at the cabin.
But who could say that she didn't place one there?
There could have been. The whole point is that Maleficent would have won no matter what.
Yeah.
Because on top of this modernizing Aurora into, giving her an out as far as, why she would disobey, this is also bolstering Maleficent because we've already had multiple powerful evils. We need a very powerful evil because, again, remember, this can't be Snow White.
Yes.
So we need a bigger, badder villain. Otherwise, this is just the evil queen all over again. Yeah. If all she can do is transform a little bit and, lie to people, we gotta go bigger. Because
otherwise, we're just repeating the end where the 7 dwarves are running after the evil witch.
And the prince just happens to save the day.
Yeah, this one, on the other hand, is the 3-step godmother. The three good fairies.
Yes.
Having that parallel action as well, trying to get to sleeping Aurora before she pricks her finger.
Yes. And so this is also them complying with one of Walt's only real guidelines for this movie. Make it better than Sleeping Beauty. Make it bigger, make it badder. Do not
Snow White.
Than Snow White.
Yeah.
And this is how they did that, is they gave her a power that doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to. She's essentially all knowing and all evil. So
yeah, as they said, her powers only cannot touch happiness and love.
And one would argue there isn't happiness or love in the castle, because Aurora was her parents' happiness and love.
But there is happiness because they're excited she's there. They're doing the fireworks, which I did
They are excited.
I did look up.
Fireworks exist.
This is about the time that they were being used as fireworks in Europe.
Yes.
Or starting to.
In Europe specifically. We're aware that there were celebration fireworks in China long before this.
Yes.
Those don't count.
But it is there is happiness, but it's taking away her happiness even further.
And some might argue that the fact that she's not back yet, it's not really happiness, it's anticipation. So,
well, she is back. She's in their tower.
Well, yeah, and now she's unconscious.
Which, I do like their build-up for it to be sorrowful enough.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of this scene...
Yes.
...is, it's solid putting everyone to sleep with the sparkles over the groups, to keep it simple in animation.
I love that.
But I love that what this movie implies is the fairies' plan is to put everyone to sleep to cover their fuck-up of not being able to protect her for 60 years.
Yeah, that is essentially what it means. This is the... we know exactly why they did this. Because we will get back to it when Maleficent does the gag about 100 years with Philip. Is in the original story, everyone, including Aurora, is asleep for 100 years, and the directing team wanted to keep that motif as best they could.
Yeah, without making her her 80 years old or over 80 years old.
Older than Philip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was their, like, best solution. It also reuses a lot of Tinkerbell footage. Not one for one, but enough that this was a way to recoup a little bit of the costs that we spent on the dance scene, because that blew the budget so badly that we kind of got told, hey, if you don't wrap this fucking thing up, all of you are getting fired.
Yeah.
Which happened anyway, but this was, like, kind of their way of, like, recouping some of that and, like, keeping the project moving as quickly as they could.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, using the song to explain how to break the curse, I think that's decent enough, but it's not, like, the best version of telling the story. I mean, we already got that, hey, true love's gonna break this to begin with.
Yeah, and like I said, while the music is all technically done by George Burns, this is again another riff on Tchaikovsky's ballet. Or I can never say his name right, even though he's my favorite composer.
Tarkovsky.
He's Russian.
Tarkovsky.
He's Russian. I can't pronounce it. Deal with it. I'm so sorry, my dear husband. But having a riff continue of the ballet gives it a specific theme. Does the words work as well as, you know, the dream love? Well, yeah, it's fine. It does its job.
Yeah, no, I can see that. But also, like, in this scene as well, using the king to give clues and hopes to the fairies is a good way to drive the story back to the cabin where we get Prince Philip walking to the trap, which, honestly, of the villains we've had, Maleficent's a real mastermind for the most part.
Maleficent will reign as potentially the best bad guy, depending on what you're qualifying, for quite a long time. Even some of our later ones during our Renaissance era don't quite match up to truly the power and scale that Maleficent had. Disney wrote themselves into a little bit of a corner, because for a long time their plan was to up every bad guy, make it a little bit more intimidating, a little bit badder, a little bit more real. We take a turn during the Dark Ages. We do a couple of weird things. We do a couple of oddballs that are more inspired by the original works than by Disney himself. And honestly, we don't really, like, come back around until we get way farther down in the catalog.
Interesting. Yeah, but I what I like about it is its weaving of failures into the climax.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, honestly, Maleficent is just one big hater on this family for
She's
no reason.
dunking on them left and right. And then she captures our dear Philip, chains him up, and then this is where we get a monologue.
Yeah.
A little bit. A little bit of a monologue of being like, sad old Prince Philip has to wander around on his sad old horse.
Well, not even that. Just like, oh no, we've captured you. We're gonna kill you, basically.
Yeah.
But oh no, they have to go to Forbidden Mountain.
I do like Forbidden Mountain. It's funny.
Yeah. Oh, and it also does make me wonder, like, why she even needs this fortress if she's so powerful.
For fun.
I guess.
She's a very thematic person. She has a pet crow, and she wears her little hat in funny horns.
Yeah. And honestly, here's the other thing, too, that I'm curious about is, I forgot to bring it up when we first saw her, but this green fire that she uses.
I love it.
I wonder if this, because it's not the first use of green as evil.
No, it's well established.
As an unnatural color, because we've talked about how when in other movies, other Disney movies, other animated movies, using green for unnaturally green, normally unnaturally green elements such as fire or potions makes it evil compared to using green for nature.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is Disney's first use of fire specifically for that, because we had the green in Snow White.
We did.
But that was brief.
It was brief. This isn't the only time that Disney uses green flames. This is, though, the start of, like, the really recognizable. This is by far the most. And part of that comes from Maleficent's original design, which was her robes were meant to look on fire, or be on fire. Granted, her first pass on colors were all red. She got moved to the purple, blacks, and greens, partially because there was a very interesting color shift that the rest of this movie had to make. We wanted to stick with the gothic stylings and then the bright illumination stylings for coloring. That was something very big because it flopped pretty bad on the previous movie as far as color goes.
Okay.
They had a very specific style. They didn't stick to it hard enough, and thus it just didn't look quite right. Disney wasn't very happy with it. He very specific on the styling on this one, and we hit it to a T. and we had to be very careful with our colors for Maleficent because our 3 main fairies, who again are on screen the whole time, are 3 very distinct, different colors.
Yes.
And they had to balance those 3 clashing colors very carefully with the rest of their wardrobe, the backgrounds, and even the animals to try and make a cohesive scene, because every time you see a fairy, almost guaranteed all 3 of them are also on screen.
Yeah.
It's very rare that there's just one on the screen at a time.
Okay.
So to do that means that they were very limited. They knew that she was going to have black. She's evil. She is a reflection of Snow White's evil queen. We know that. But the reason that she got moved to purple and green as opposed to the red was that she would very drastically contrast those fairies.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, and also Disney already had agreed that green equals evil, and she is evil. So here we go.
Unnatural green.
Unnatural green. This is also the first instance where the evil purple comes in. This purple will come back around as a signifier of evil as well. We'll see it when Ursula shows up.
Okay. Well, that'll be a while.
It will be a while. But these 3 colors essentially create, for a really long time, the entire color palette for any evil character in Disney. Even when we move to lions, they make his mane black because he's evil.
Okay, I can see that now.
Yeah.
But there are some funny things that happen with Prince Philip's escape that...
I do like it.
While we've established that the fairies, the good fairies,
yes,
can only use their powers for good.
I love that it's the silliest good.
They're able to manifest a sword and shield of goodness.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You can't think too hard about it. And part of it's because, again, they were taking 3 different versions of this story and kind of mushing it together as best they could. So in one version of the story, Philip just kills the Maleficent, don't worry about it. One version ends terribly, we don't talk about that version.
Okay.
And one version, the fairies, give him a magic sword a la King Arthur style, where oh, you've been gifted the magic sword. They went with that option because option 2 sucks, and option 1 isn't really cool.
Okay.
And they also needed a reason for these 3 fairies to continue, because even though Prince Philip is technically the hero of this film, he's the prince.
Yeah.
The 3 fairies are pseudo-parents, and this is the 60s where Disney was trying to, re-give his main characters parents that cared about them and weren't all dead. Yeah,
they're not just there for the comedic relief. They're there to actually serve a purpose, and even if their purpose is just magically giving sword and shield of goodness.
And turning things into bubbles.
And the Crota Stone.
Yes, I do love that that's a caveat of goodness, as they managed to turn the evil crow into stone. Yes. Statuary is in their lineup, and also a magical rainbow for the horse to jump on.
Yes.
I love it.
I do. Okay, so what had the better bridge jump scene? Gone in 60 Seconds or Prince Philip's jump?
That's honestly kind of a hard choice. Because they're very different. I will say that this is a very fun and interesting switch that this movie has made, because up until about this point, this is a very girly movie. And Disney, like we've talked about, Disney wants every movie to be for everyone. And as a directing team, they knew that they needed to give some form of action if they wanted little boys to even remotely like this. Mm-hmm. They had a little bit more freedom than they normally would have. Yeah. Because Walt was a little bit busy with Disneyland at the time. And so they kind of took the action part of Philip a little bit far. We spent more money on this, by the way. This was definitely not the ideal, because the Philip running away scene ended up costing quite a bit as well. Mm-hmm. I'm not complaining, but I'm not the one who was working on it.
No. I think Gone in 60 Seconds had a better jump scene.
It was pretty cool. I will give this big props, though, because as someone who has, I've had a lot of the girl experience as far as me and my friends watching this growing up. Mm-hmm. I've also watched my brother and his friends be forced to watch this. It was not their first choice. They had to watch it. Yeah. They did like this part. This part was cool enough that they felt heroic, especially once we get to the dragon fighting scene.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just a good building of tension through the trials, just fighting through that forest of thorns that...
It's pretty spooky thorns, too.
Yeah, horse better be getting some good carrots and oats.
This poor fat horse.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also makes me think, not just the horse, the horse and the trial build-up, but Maleficent feels like a true final boss when they're doing the animation of clouds behind her, she's controlling everything, and it's just
And this is where a very interesting, like, little couple lines from some of the behind-the-scenes dialogue was actually really insightful.
Mm-hmm.
Because we talked a little bit about how the three fairies are more than just the silly side characters. They're there for the whole movie. They are honestly potentially the main characters, depending on how you frame this film.
Yeah.
Them showing up at the very last second to give Philip the edge over essentially immeasurable evil is a very interesting last little bit, and it was their commentary on, well, they give Philip every opportunity to beat it on his own, and when they realize he can't, then they step in.
Yeah, and even then, like, they're not able to, like, really fully do it either. It's still up to Philip to finish this, because, like, honestly, this fight is probably, in my opinion,
yes,
of the original 3 Disney princesses.
Oh yes.
This is by far one of the best, if not my favorite scene.
I agree.
It's so dynamic, the way they push it to the end, where even though we know
it's very intense.
Yeah, even though we know where it's going to go, there still has that feeling of, like, they might not make it in time. They might not be able. He might not be able to fight her off.
And even the very last scene where the dragon is falling off the cliff and into the flames, you don't quite see where Philip goes. They kind of, like, they, like, put him behind the dragon and then just, like, poof him out of existence. So that way you don't know if he falls too, is a really smart, like, cliffhanger, especially for a children's film where, like, they're gonna be like, oh my god, Philip might be dead.
Yeah.
We know as adults he's not, because, like, this is a pretty predictable film. We're pretty confident on our end. Disney hasn't gotten to the curveball stage yet.
Uh-huh.
But honestly, it's really smart, because, like, yeah, this is some pretty good action.
Yeah. No, very much so, but now we gotta quick pace it to the spell's broken. One thing I do have to say is when he comes up the stairs, and it just makes me think of the first architecture contest I entered in high school.
Was it stair-based?
There were stairs, but the biggest comment is, like, our entire team, we didn't give enough headroom.
Were people donking their heads on their way up the stairs?
If they had actually done them.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, no, that's my exact comment of this, is, like, when his head appears, is like, there would be enough stone where he would have
had a duck
for a while.
I mean, in the animator's defense, old-timey castles, there was a lot of ducking involved.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a lot of work to build.
Yeah, and it's strategy, too.
It is, only short knights will succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, short kings.
Honestly, and people were just shorter back then.
Yeah. But this is still, even with, like, we've had the big dynamic scenes, the lighting of the waking up is really good.
Okay, my only complaint of this entire movie, like, true complaint of this entire movie, is and I kind of, like, see the logic. I disagree with the logic. That's why this is a complaint. When Aurora opens her eyes for the first time, she looks crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Wild choice that they made. Because it's just a hair too long to be like, oh, you paused it at the wrong time. That's why it looks silly. Why did we choose this? And I've heard them talk about it. They did it this way because there is supposed to be a blankness to her stare as she awakes and realizes it's him, and then there's, like, color coming back to her face and that little smile. I hear you. She didn't need to look like that.
No. It's the same.
This is bad.
It's the same with, like, Cinderella looking in on the mice cage, and she just gets this, like, creepy smile on her face.
And at least that one, you can be like, oh, you pause. Like, it's quicker.
Yeah.
And, like, she's not technically the main front feature of that scene. This is front center, wild choice.
Yeah.
Terrible. We will not see a design option this bad until Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a long time, so...
A lot of us have a lot of strong feelings about the terrible design choice in that film as well.
Okay.
This is a second placer for sure.
But also, like, the way they comedically interrupt the news for the parents to be like, oh, you guys are both getting what you want is well done.
It is. It's quick. We're finally wrapping this up very nicely.
Well, in one way, you talk about how these godmothers are fairies are supposed to be, like, the parent characters.
Yeah.
There's a little transition with the queen's dress in this scene.
Yes.
Where she's got all 3 colors of the fairies.
Which is a very interesting choice, because she is present and not dead, which is a very big caveat for a princess.
Yep.
In Disney.
It's like a dad in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire.
Honestly, yeah, what is up with the divorce rate in the Pokemon world?
Or death. Well, okay.
Oh yeah, are they all dead?
So that's another theory too, is that at least in the first one, is because of the Pokemon War. Your mom's the only surviving parent.
That's a little bit more sad than the idea that I had as a child, which was that all the dads are Pokemon masters and refuse to come home and are like deadbeats.
Yeah. Actually, that would be a really good plot of a game, is like you go out to find where your dad went. Yeah.
There is a game like that. It's called Hurdy-Gurdy, that stupid-ass herding game for the PlayStation 2, and your entire goal is to herd your way into a championship to get your dad to be out of a coma.
Interesting. Isn't it also part of the plot of Hunter x Hunter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one has more going on. It eventually loses that plot and gains a different one.
Yeah.
There's only one plot in Hurdy-Gurdy, the PlayStation 2 masterpiece.
One day I will borrow Hurdy-Gurdy from you.
It's really bad. I'm so sorry. It's not worth it. I know I talk about it a lot, and that's just because it's bad.
Yeah.
But this one, like, her being alive is honest, like, the Queen being alive is enough of an importance in a Disney film, especially at this point, because enough people have made the connection that, wow, Disney loves orphans. That this is honestly, like, this is a symbol of her being everything Aurora is, but as a queen.
Yeah.
But she gets no dialogue. She's just not dead.
Yeah,
which is good enough.
Or just only having a father, because isn't that kind of a big thing up until like Mulan?
Yeah, there's a lot of single parent versus just full orphan, and honestly, yes, Mulan has both parents. Mulan is in the minority of just Disney in general. There's a shocking amount of one parent or both being dead in Disney, and it lasted up until pretty recently. Some would argue still a problem.
Yeah, I mean, Lilo and Stitch, technically orphans.
No, definitely orphans. That's like the whole plot, is that they're orphans.
Yeah, but Lilani working as the parent character.
Yeah, definitely. And like they've handled that dialogue differently over the years, which is good because I mean that is a thing that Disney has recognized as a like profitable margin for them. Mm-hmm. And also it's a touching thing that a lot of people can resonate with on some form, some way.
Yeah.
This was we become self-aware enough as an audience that just the fact that both of Aurora's parents are not dead, and that through the Queen's coloring and the fact that she looks enough like Aurora and has that sweetness to her in her animation and styling, we can just kind of assume that she's everything Aurora is, but older in Queen form.
Okay.
Which, honestly, fine. I don't really care, because her main parent source was the fairies, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, it's just a way to wrap it up. I mean, we got a dance at the end. And
a beautiful dance with the iconic, make it blue, make it pink. So cute.
Yeah, very cute.
I mean, classic.
Yeah, the rivalry continues.
I love it.
Although, canonically, it ends up blue.
True, and if you're in the pink void, Capital Princess, she ends up in pink. So...
Okay.
I know.
The battle continues.
Honestly, it does.
But... Sleeping Beauty would prove to be another break for Disney princesses.
So sad.
At least until Little Mermaid in 1989, which I did not realize how close to that being alive that I was for that.
Yep, that one is pretty close to us, though we pick up the pace on how many movies Disney produces once we get to the 90s.
Yeah.
So... there's probably a Disney movie for your birth year, don't worry.
Yeah, but it's also the end of an era for Disney, and I can see why, because of how expensive this was and how long it took to make. I mean, this started like right after Cinderella, and it took them 4 or 5 years to make, and on top of that, it ultimately it was successful through re-releases and home video, currently being the second highest grossing film from 59 behind Ben-Hur.
Yep.
It bombed at the box offices in its initial run, not even making up its production value by like parts of $1 million, but still, even if they had made their money back, it would still have been a box office bomb, which is weird to think about with how much of a status it has with, it's a Disney movie. It must have done so well.
Oh, and not just that, it's the Disney classic. This is on the list of, like, the Disney movies, right?
Yeah.
You want to watch a Disney movie? This is what people think about. Part of that is because it doesn't look a certain age. No. This movie still continues to be breathtakingly beautiful. The other thing is that this movie was part of that re-release strategy that, by this point, Disney was really getting in on. Because while Walt himself wanted this to be in that special ratio so that people would go to the theater and watch it, The rest of the Disney group, at this point, they owned their own distribution.
Mhm.
They had their own group underneath their title to make their own DVDs and VHS tapes, or at this point, VHS tapes.
Yeah, I mean, they had built up a whole industry within their studio. They were making their own inks and everything.
And that industry, while Walt understood it and was not like, that wasn't him being like, oh gosh, no, I don't want it. It was more of like a final defeat for him, because this movie made all of its money in home release, despite the fact that Walt desperately wanted this to be people's last chance to go back to the theaters and do this as a group.
Yeah. It was the end of the lavish filmmaking that Disney had been so accustomed to being able to do. And like you said, it was the last hand-inked movie, and part of this was also due to advancing technology with the Xerox process allowing them to move away from the lavish and intensive work that was technically required when they started, and so they had to either adapt with the times or go out of business.
And when we say this bombed, it bombed hard enough that this was one of the first big and well-known layoffs that Disney did. There was a pretty big exodus for the design and animation team. Part of the push to moving to the Xerox process was because it took less people. And part of that came from the fact that this movie lost enough money that Walt had to let people go. Yeah. Granted, some people say, oh, he was sad and was long missed about it. Other people point more towards the numbers and say this was the only business solution he had with 2 expensive, not yet profitable theme parks under his belt.
Yeah, but while it was a failure, it did set the groundwork for the rest of the Silver Era and the future of Disney through the Bronze and Dark Ages of the stylistic choices they would take from movie to movie.
And this set the animation tone for movies that were willing to be more adventurous. Granted, the Disney Corporation would quickly learn that those adventurous films need to be balanced out by very good high earning guarantees. Unfortunately, we've hit a point where the high earners versus the adventurous ones, we're starting to see where that balance is falling off. But for a while, especially once we get back into the Renaissance, we start seeing that being balanced out more like what we would probably want today, where for every one adventurous, we had at least 2 pretty tame, we're gonna make their money at the box office films to balance it out.
Yeah, it's usually like with in video game studios, you see when studios try making hit after hit after hit, instead of making one hit. Okay, we're gonna do a couple smaller games, then do another big hit. Now you see a lot of these burn out at like hit after hit after hit, and they just keep getting more and more expensive because that's the only thing they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. This was also the final nail in the coffin for a solidified Disney art style. This is not the Disney art style by any means, don't misunderstand me. This was, though, a proof of concept of being able to get an entire staff to a hyper-specific art style and keep it consistent for an entire movie. We kind of proved that point with Cinderella, but there was some leeway. We had different teams working on different aspects, and it showed. Certain animals look a very specific way and don't necessarily mesh. The castle, while cool, a completely different art style than the rest of the film. This one managed to keep a hyper-specific style so consistent that it actually ended up working. Yeah,
and blended all together. Because, while we talk about how, Snow White stood out just a little bit over her backgrounds, Cinderella has a very static background, so it's movement around the set, whereas this one, the set is as much a character as the rest of the characters.
Yes, and so while we will never return to this exact style again, unfortunately, Disney retired this as far as animation and movies go. You'll see it return in the parks, but never again in animation. It proved the concept for this hyper-specific style, which we will eventually get to, and will eventually be part of the Pixar process.
Yeah. So, Chris, at the end of Sleeping Beauty in the Silver Era of Disney princesses, what rating do you give Sleeping Beauty?
Without my bias of her being my favorite princess and Travasky's ballet being one of my favorites, truthfully, this is a good movie. It's well-rounded, the story is nicely balanced, the pacing is very beautiful, and of course the art style is gorgeous. I really do think that there's not a ton of complaints to have with this.
Yeah. No, I definitely give it a good rating as well. Honestly, of the 3 that we've done so far, it's the best for me visually and stylistically, but I will concede that if you're looking for a true princess movie, your concept of a true princess movie.
Mm-hmm.
This one starts to lack. It's the weakest of the princesses.
Yes.
But it also works too, considering that the source material is that she's asleep for the entire story.
Yeah. When we say princess and talk about this movie, what we really mean is fairy tale.
Yeah.
And we just kind of have lost that word when it comes to Disney movies as the years have gone on. Because we did. We stopped doing fairy tales kind of after this point. We get around to Ariel, and after that, we kind of start trickling out. We start doing more unique or independent stuff.
Or related to folk heroes and whatnot. So.
We will eventually have to talk about the folk heroes, because part of the reason that the staff shifted was because they did a bunch of weird-ass folk animated films that are bad, and I have most of them on VHS.
Well, good. So, Chris, do you recommend Sleeping Beauty?
I do, and while I bitched about the tiny screen size, I will specify that the DVD special edition bullshit princess nonsense, it's actually worth, I think, to watch it in that format. Yes, you can watch it on Disney+. Yes, you could go and rent it from the library, but getting a hold of the fancy DVD I do think is worth it. There was several interesting extras on there that honestly did add to the film quite a bit. Getting to see Ivan Earl's extra work being layered on really gave a nice perspective on everything. And if you are a fan of the old DVD games, even though the DVD is newer, they do have a few, and they are kind of fun.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely highly recommend this one as well. If you want to go back and watch the classic, the 3 original Disney princesses, I would say this is the one to watch the culmination of the studio come together and make something that truly is unique and interesting. And it's a shame that it did fall apart, but also at the same time, I think maybe it just shows that even if you have the ambition, sometimes if you don't build it, or sometimes when you do build it, they still won't come.
Especially when the home theater is king.
Yep, exactly. So, but that's the end of our covering of the Golden Silver Age of Disney princesses. It's a farewell to classic Disney as we seek realistic graphics and revisionist storytelling in our last micro view of this era.
We will eventually get to the grittiness.
Yes, but we will be the next one. I'm excited for our next arc after the next micro view, because women, take back your power. You ain't need no Prince Charming to save you.
We're back to our old ways. Out with Christine's princess sillies and in with the normal.
Yeah, in with the umbrella hiding a sword.
Yeah, more sillies.
More my reign.
Absolutely.
So, but anywho, this has been the Good, the Bad, the Weird podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the good, the bad, and the weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always, check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.